Um, I talked with Corey and said let's put together and obviously see where he wants to take this. But one of the things that I know a lot of us not going to become flat pickers today, but I see a lot of things going on in the modern dobros where people are using their thumb as a flat pick, if you will, and doing double picking and things. And I thought it would be good if we listened to Corey again about some of this and how the flat picking can relate to what we're all doing, and bring this flat picking back to talk about it a little bit. What do you think? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Corey Lee McQuade.
Thank you. Now you're probably wondering why you're at a Flatpicking Dobro workshop and I have a guitar in my hand. Basically, I wanted to show that I'm a bit of an oddball when it comes to my playing styles. I flat pick the dobro, I finger pick guitar, and I play clawhammer banjo. So I'm very comfortable with a thumb pick and finger picks, and I just want to show that, you know, I know a little bit of what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to play a little bit of a song by John D. Loudermilk that he wrote for Chet Atkins. It's called Windy and Warm. Thank you. So I am comfortable with a thumb pick, just depending on what instrument that it's on. But what I want to do today is go over some things that I've seen some dobro players do that are different techniques with their thumb pick that replicates more along the lines of what I do with a flat pick. And hopefully everybody will come away with a little bit of different thinking today, and maybe do make you think outside the box a little bit. Starting out, I want to show you some of the, there's a lot of different good cross-picking patterns in the song that I'm going to play. This is a tune, one of Tut Taylor's tunes that's called Ghost Picker. And this is at a B minor, and then it goes to a D. I'm just going to play through this real quick, just to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing with the flat pick. Now with a lot of those patterns, I'm doing a downstroke with the flat pick, which if you look at the sheets, what I wanted to do with the downstroke is to simulate as you're looking down at the dobro, the strings will match up with GBD. So you're looking at picking basically away from yourself, from the backside and forward, and an upstroke being the opposite, coming back. So whenever I'm talking about those things, and then we're going to reference those with your finger picks. Let's see. To start out, we're going to. I want to talk a little bit about why I flat picked the dobro in the first place. It's all about the consistency and the tone and the attack of it. I've listened to Josh Graves before and other dobro players, and it was never an instrument that really caught my ear until I heard Steady Parrot Area playing John Hartford's album. And just the playing on that, it was so precise and so even, and it complemented everything that everybody else was doing throughout that album. I was just absolutely blown away by it. And then I went and I bought a dobro like a week later and started learning to play, and I was learning with finger picks, and I was really having a hard time to get that same kind of consistent tone. I had no idea at the time that Tut played with a flat pick. And I was talking to a friend of mine, he's like, well, you know, Tut played with a flat pick. I was like, he did? I was like, oh. So I started trying it, and right off the bat, you had that instant tone that I was looking for, that nice even, consistent attack. And that's what really drew me to it. And then, of course, coming down to the ResoGat and getting to meet Tut and becoming really good friends with him was just an absolute dream come true. I still can't even put it into words what it's like to get to sit down and pick with your hero and become good friends with him and everything. And this is actually Tut's personal dobro that he left to me whenever he passed away. So I definitely feel obligated to keep teaching his style on it. But I never use finger picks on a dobro. It's they feel alien to me. I'm so used to the flat pick. But I want to talk about different things that people do with their thumb picks that I've been seeing. Of course, there's a lot of like strumming rhythm type of things. I've noticed, I've been watching a lot of videos of Jerry Douglas up close, and he strums with his thumb pick almost like a flat pick. There will even be times where he will reach up and hold onto his thumb like he has a flat pick in his hand with some of the stuff that he's doing. And that's one of the things that I want everybody to try to do is take your thumb pick and reach up and grab it like you're holding a flat pick. And just try that with like a strumming type of rhythm. I was going to get into chops in a little bit because I was talking with Larry earlier that a lot of the chop sound comes from the left hand with finger pickers. When it comes to what I'm doing, it's all entirely in my right hand. But whenever you're trying to do something like that with a thumb pick on, the thumb pick is thicker, so you get a lot more resistance. So it's good. I'm thinking that's the whole reason of putting your finger behind it is to be able to brace behind it, to be able to get a little bit more control behind it whenever you're doing stuff. You'll notice a lot of times that a lot of guys, whenever they're really wanting to dig in and get a good, loud, almost squealy type of tone out of their dobro, they're going to use their thumb. And because you get that same kind of, you know, nice, mean hit that you can get with a flat pick. And it's that same kind of concept because whenever you're coming back with the metal finger picks, there's not nearly as much power because, well, you're pulling towards yourself and just the angle that they hit. But whenever you go forward with the flat pick or your thumb pick, you get a lot more power behind it. So whenever you really want to try to dig in on like a note on, say we're going to slide up on to A, you do it with I've got fingernails is what I use mostly. You get a weaker tone than coming over. I mean, you could really dig in and get some good tones out of a dobro. But what you really need to be able to do that is to get your thumb pick to get that flat pick feel to it. So, I'm just gonna play like a little blues stuff, and I'm gonna try and get kind of like dirty with it and play a little rough. See, if you try to do that with all finger picks, you're not gonna get that kind of tone. So, I see a lot of times guys will be doing a run, and they will start out, you know, probably just any old scale or whatever that they're doing. But you get a nice even tone. If you break that up in between the thumb and the finger pick, then there's a little bit of a loss of tone and equality between the attack and whenever you're hitting it. So I see a lot of guys that will just play with their thumb. I have a thumb pick somewhere. All right, this is gonna be weird. But what I'm talking about is like with this thumb pick here, I've got a perfect touch thumb pick. I absolutely love these things for guitar. But see how you can use a little bit harder to do stuff like that. But everybody try with your thumb pick. I want you to try and hold it kind of like you've got a flat pick. And I want you to try to just strum something out, get a feel for how it kind of works. Because I'm going to get into a few other things here. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
When I try to do it, I try to grip that bit so it slide off so the whole.
Yeah. Yeah, that same kind of it like gives you a little bit of an extra brace there. Because if you're going to try, it's really hard to keep that nice and even, consistent with the thumb pick on. But if you get that little extra brace behind it with your index finger, you can do like this sort of, Rob Ikes does this a lot. But it's really hard to do it unless you have that brace behind it. It makes it a lot easier. And with a tune like, there's a Tut Taylor song, Goodlettsville Express, that is basically, that entire tune is almost picking like that. Because what you're doing on that is you're sliding up from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret up to a G on the D string, but you're going back and forth on both of those strings at the same time. So it's not just one, it's... So, so that sort of stuff you can do. I'm thinking if you take and you brace in behind it, the thumb pick with your index finger, you should be able to, you can get that a lot easier. And something that you have to take into consideration when you're trying to do this, a thumb pick is big and thick and hard. And you have a lot of resistance whenever you first hit the string. And I've noticed a lot with my flat picking. I've been doing some up close, slow motion video of my right hand to get a better idea of what I'm doing, because a lot of this it's on autopilot. I really have to stop and think about what I'm doing with it. And but whenever I come down, it's not all wrist movement, it's not all arm movement. I've got movement in my fingers as well. It's almost kind of like, I describe it like a fishtail, because whenever I'm going forward, the arm's going, the wrist has an action to it, but then at the very end, the fingers come into it as well. So whenever you want to go really fast, it's better if you can hit, instead of hitting the string perfectly flat with a pick, if you can catch it at a slight angle. You get the same tack, but there's a lot less resistance. So whenever you go on the downstroke, this is going fast, you have a slight, it's probably like less than a 45-degree angle, more like a 30, that comes off the front. But then whenever I come back, I'm turning the pick back and hitting the opposite side at that same kind of angle. So whenever I'm coming through it, I'm going like this. It's not just back and forth, it's kind of a movement like this. So that'll give you a lot less resistance when you're going. And here, just to show how much movement I do have in the fingers, I'm gonna try to like lock my arm down over here. So that's all just wrist and fingers. It's almost like whenever I'm coming through on the downstroke, it's like I flick my thumb over and through it. I'm kind of like following through on a golf swing. You go through and around, and then whenever you come back, you're doing the exact exact opposite. So you go forward and then back. It's an over-exaggeration of what I'm actually doing there. Any ideas or questions or anything up to this point so far? I mean, this is sort of the kind of stuff that you want to sit around and like mess around in a quiet corner somewhere. Yeah, try to think more about whenever you're doing a run, using a little bit more thumb and not just a thumb finger, thumb finger, thumb finger, thumb finger. If you can do like thumb, 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 something like that, to really bring out what you're doing. Here, I'll just do a quick little run here on a C chord versus, you know. It gets a lot better sound just coming straight on all those. So whenever you're it has more of that flat picking kind of tone to it, other than never mind that I just did that. And that actually leads me into like the next guy that I want to talk about, like their picking style, is Josh Swift. I really like his style. And if you notice watching him, he doesn't do a whole lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs and stuff like that. He is picking every single note that he's playing. And it gives it almost kind of like a chicken-picking guitar kind of a sound to it. I absolutely love that. And I don't know if I may have been younger and heard Josh Swift for the first time. I may be using finger picks, who knows? Because he's got that same kind of a similar to like the flat pick tone that I like so much. It's a nice even thing. And to be perfectly honest, it baffles me how he does that with finger picks on. But it's another one of those things of not relying so much on hammer-ons and pull-offs, because they have a tendency to kind of lose the tone of what you're doing. It's like you notice whenever I was playing Ghost Picker, I do some, but I really like to pick my notes out. It seems like sometimes notes get lost in the shuffle, but then again, there's times that you really want to do that if you're trying to accentuate the melody and have the remainder notes kind of flow behind it. That was a concept that John Hartford used to call ghost notes. They were the notes that were kind of in behind. Because like with a banjo player, when you play the melody, you're concentrating on the melody with your thumb and your index finger usually. And then you have the other notes, the fillers, the stuff that goes in between, that he didn't accentuate as much. So instead of having a tone of like, it's like, just doing being more subtle with the in-between notes. So think about trying to use a little bit more thumb and less fingers to really bring out what you want to do. If you listen to Flat Lonesome, whenever Josh really digs into that, that's all thumb. There's no finger picking. If you want to get that kind of a tone, you've got to use that thumb pick. So try to think more about playing out your notes more, doing a little less hammer-ons and pull-offs, and whenever you really want to dig into, really get that thumb going. Those are some of the things that I kind of want to go over. There's also a technique that I do when it comes to blues playing that basically the only other person I've ever seen do it is Mike Aldridge. And he would do this with a metal finger pick on with his middle finger. But it's similar to a pinch harmonic that electric guitar players use. It's not a true harmonic. It's not like trying to do a palm harmonic or something like that. This is just an overtone. But you hear how there's a little bit of a harmonic. And what I'm doing with that is catching the side of my thumb with the string right when you're picking it. So it gives you kind of a false harmonic just behind the picking spot. Now Aldridge was doing that same technique with a metal finger pick on his middle finger. He said he could only do it on his middle finger though. And from the looks of it, he's like picking at a slight angle. So he's catching the metal finger pick as it comes off here, and at the same time catching the side of his middle finger. Sorry, I keep flipping everybody off talking about this. But it's that same concept. Let's see if I can't embarrass myself a little bit further here. And because I was trying to mess around with that. The only problem is where I have long fingernails. My nail kind of gets in the way there a little bit. But what I'm trying to show you is what he was doing is, instead of picking straight on, picking at an angle to try and, yeah, I can't quite catch it, but I was trying to mess with it last night, so I'm not sitting up here talking about a concept I can't like explain to anybody. But that's something to mess around with it over in a quiet corner somewhere. More of those things that like that. But also, I want to get into rhythm. And the way that I do a dobro chop is more like a mandolin chop. I'm completely fretting everything down like normal on the left hand. Nothing different about my left hand whatsoever. But it's all right hand chop. When I'm coming in, I'm hitting it like almost the exact same time that I'm catching the side of my hand. I mean, it's a nice, I'm planting that thing on there. It's not a gentle thing. But what I want everybody to do is to take your thumb pick, wherever mine is going, Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, awesome.
At least it's just the guitar.
Might let more sound out if you got another hole.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already trying to saw a hole in the top of it anyway. But, because I see a lot of guys that, like whenever they're doing like a rhythmic chop, it's almost more of like a strumming pattern on this hand. And what I really want you to do is take the bar, set it down, throw it in the floor of your guitar or whatever, and take your thumb pick and hold it kind of like a flat pick like I was saying, and I want you to try and do a chop. I mean, just beat on it. But this will help to like, whenever you're playing like rhythm backup and the mandolin player's taking a solo or whatever, and you're doing your mandolin chops, this will give you a little bit more of a bit more of that choppy mandolin sound. But even try to do it a little bit more like forget that it's a thumb pick. Try to really hold on to it like it's a flat pick. You get that extra brace in behind there, because whenever you're doing a chop, you're not going to be using your fingers for anything else if you do it this way. I know a lot of guys, it's like a boom pop with fingers. But a lot of the muting is done on the left hand with that. And what I want you to get into is thinking about muting with the right hand. Because that'll give you, I don't know, it just sounds like a crisper, cleaner chop to me. Because if you listen to this here. So that'll give you kind of an idea. And these are just some ideas that I just want to throw out there, and most of it's kind of stuff you want to practice on your own or whatever. But I also want to talk about, now we've gotten into right hand muting there with the chops a little bit. Whenever I do a whole bunch of like picking consecutive notes, I do a lot of muting with my right hand. One of the things that absolutely blew me away when I first met Tut was the way that he held his bar. Because I'd never seen a picture of him holding a bar. And he held it kind of like a pencil like this and did not mute behind the strings at all, which is one of my pet peeves for playing, is not muting behind and getting that double overtone. And I asked him, I'm like, how? Because you listen to his early recording, and I cannot tell that he's not muting behind the bar. I mean, it blows me away. And I was asking him about it, and he was doing right hand muting. So whenever you're playing your tunes, it's kind of like having it there for the chop. It's kind of like a bouncy kind of motion on the right hand. Because if you're doing all that and you don't do any muting, you get a lot of over-ringing overtones and everything like that, but and it's a real subtle thing, and it's all right here in the meat of my hand, right here. It's almost kind of like it kind of pops back and forth. It's kind of hard to explain. But it deadens notes from ringing out too long. And a lot of times, if you do get into some stuff and playing fast, a whole lot of notes will kind of like blend in together. And it cleans it up a bit. So anybody have any questions so far about just these oddball kind of ideas? Nope? All right. Let's see. I've got a sheet over here that I'm going by. All right. Now, there's a double thumb roll that Jerry Douglas does a lot. And I was thinking that there's a really good Tut Taylor tune that kind of uses that same kind of a pattern. And so what I want to do is actually teach everybody a little bit of this one tune. It's called Mist on the High Meadow. And I'm going to play, run through it real quick, and then we'll break it down, and I'll teach it to you note for note. Now playing this tune, the opening bit is almost exactly that same sort of type of pattern that Jerry Douglas uses. So we're going to slide from the first fret on the first of all, strings. When I talk about them, it's a number 1 through 6, starting with high D is number 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then call it the fret numbers. So we're going to be on the 4th string, D, on the 1st fret, and slide up to the 2nd fret. Now I want you to do this with your thumb. And then you're going to hit that same 2nd fret on the 4th string, note E, with your thumb again. So you'll get a... from 1 to 2 on the 4th string. Your next note will be the 3rd string G open, and I want you to play that with your index finger. Okay, and after that, you're gonna go back with your thumb and play the 2nd fret on the 4th string, note E again. So we have. Okay, and then we're gonna play the 2nd string B open with your middle finger. So that's. Okay, now next will be the 3rd string G open with the index finger, followed by the 2nd fret, 4th string, note E with your thumb. So that whole little run is. Any questions so far? Everybody? Okay. But that gives you that same kind of double note, double thumb roll that he starts out, because he does a lot of like a thumb, finger, thumb, and it seems like the thumb's always like boom, 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 boom. It's almost like a heartbeat type of thing. And he's really got that down. But that seems like a really good kind of a tune. And that, and I've also got some video footage of Tut and Jerry sitting side by side playing that tune. I watched his fingers real close and see exactly what he's doing on that. So just from the top, and if you notice, this is got kind of a loose kind of feel to it. It's not just da 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 da. Yeah. Not that I cannot read music at all. I don't know music theory, so I play entirely by ear. So sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to kind of explain some of the concepts, just because I don't know the theory behind it. But I would refer to that as playing a little bit crooked instead of playing so straight. It's more of like an old time type of thing. So for our Mist in the High Meadow, we have. That 3 times, which is the opening part, and then we're going to go to B, which is 4th fret on the 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings, and then leaving the 5th string B open. So it kind of it's major, but it has a little bit of a minor feel to it. And then whenever we play this one, we're going to start out with the thumb on the 6th string, followed by the thumb on the 5th string, and then your index finger on the 4th, and middle finger on the 3rd. So you get a. But that's another thing of keeping that thumb twice and then the fingers. Okay, give me a minute, because I gotta think of how this goes. Okay, so we got okay, so next we're gonna go to, so we do the thumb on the 6th and then the 5th, and then the index on the third, and middle on the fourth. And then you're gonna come back and play the sixth with your thumb, the fifth with your thumb, and then it's the fourth with your index finger, and then we're gonna come back to the thumb on the fifth. So you have okay, so I'm going to try to put that all together so we can get a better idea of what we're doing here. Might help if I did it right. Okay. So coming off that B, so it's going to be from 6, 5, 4, 3, and then 6, 5, 4, 5. Okay, and then the fourth string twice. So we have and then to finish that off, what we're going to do is we're going to slide from the second fret to the fourth fret on the third string and play the second string B open at the same time. This is something I just do with the flat pick. To get a better tone, I would suggest you try to do it with your thumb and just slide all the way up to meet that B note. And you're going to do that twice, so it's up. And then it's going to be the second fret on the third string to open on the third string, to second fret on the fourth string. So we have and then we're going to play the second fret on the fourth string, open fourth string, and then back on the second fret of the fourth string on that E note. So you have okay, so that whole thing put together sounds like this. And if anybody is having trouble keeping up or anything like that, if I'm going too fast, let me know, or stop by my booth. I'd be more than glad to sit and work with anybody one-on-one. I love to teach people to do stuff. So feel free to stop by anytime. Is there anything, did anybody get lost in there or anything? Okay.
No, on that, on the last lick coming back, I can see why you don't like finger picks, try to get that one in even though I'm used to it.
Yeah.
That one almost works better with all thumb, maybe with.
Yeah, you know, actually, that's a really good point. I meant to bring. Whenever I was talking about that video that I have, watching Jerry Douglas play the song is where I got the idea for the thumb run. But well, yeah, on that last lick, he's using nothing but his thumb on that. That's all thumb that he's using. Because I mean, even because if you try to do like a finger pick and the thumb pick just on the, you're not going to get that same kind of a tone. That's good. All right. Well, I've only got a couple minutes left. I've taken longer than I thought I was going to. On the sheets that I gave you, the first three are just a variation on the same one. This is like the main cross-picking pattern I use in like steam-powered aeroplane. So, as you can see on the sheet, I've designed that to be where it's a thumb, index finger, thumb, middle finger, written down there below with a T1 and a T2. And because this will give you that same Tut Taylor cross-picking feel, but it's not a really complicated roll. It's actually a pretty easy finger picking roll once you get into it. So you're going to start with your thumb on, we'll do the very first one, on the G string, just open. And then second is second string with your index finger. And then thumb on the G string. And then middle finger on the high D string on first string. So you get a which is what I'm doing with the and then the second one is that exact same pattern, just instead of starting on the G string, we're going to be starting on the D string. Okay, and then of course, then the last one down there, the third one down, is working off of the D string. And then there's also, I should have had one of the sheets for myself, kind of like a reverse roll, where you're going to be coming from the first string, second string, to the third string. Now, whenever I do this, it's almost all upstrokes. I'm pulling the pick back towards myself. And it's not, whenever I get fast, I'm not just dragging it like a rake. I'm pulling back, and it's almost kind of like tapping when I'm coming back. So you get so it's not just like a straight movement. Once again, it's got a little bit of a crooked feel to it. It's the same type of pattern if you listen to Tut's song Oasis and hear how it's all like nice and even, but then listen to the song Sweet Pickin' Time in Tunesboro, Georgia, which whenever you're getting in it, it's bit more of a, once again, I want to say a crooked pattern to it. Instead of just being da 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 da, kind of like a triplet. But with those, I'm almost always coming with the first two are going to be an upstroke, and then I usually finish it with a downstroke. So what you can do is do finger, finger, and then the thumb to get that, and it should give you that same kind of a sound. Now I have seen rhythmically, sometimes I just like, I don't always like to play a lot whenever somebody else is doing something. So a lot of times I'll just rake a chord in the background of whatever they're doing. It says in there and strumming or chopping it out. It'll just be something subtle. And I happened to catch on a video, I can't remember which tune it was. It's on YouTube. You get some nice, really close-up shots of Rob Ike's right hand on the video. And he's doing something similar to that, where he is doing an upstroke with his thumb pick. Just like I was describing earlier, where he's coming back with the thumb pick at the same time that he's plucking with his finger picks. So he gets a nice, like, soft, because if you do it with your thumb going forward, that bottom kind of sticks out a little bit, but if you do, it's still there, but it's a lot more soft and subtle. Oh, there's a good one right there. But ultimately, what I want everybody to walk away from this with is to look at your thumb pick and realize that it's got two sides, and you can use it a lot more than you think. We're just about out of time here. And please, if you want to stop by my booth, I'd be happy to work with you on anything. If you have any questions or any comments, or if you have a different idea, something along these lines. I do want to back up for a second and talk about rhythmic stuff, since we were doing that one soft upstroke with the thumb of Rob Ike's. Whenever you watch him and he strums along, he's using his fingertips a lot for his strumming pattern. Whenever you watch Jerry Douglas, he's using his thumb pick more like a flat pick. I've actually seen him, he's actually strumming it at some points with stuff that he's doing. But I think with the thumb, you get a much better tone to it. It seems like trying to use your fingers is almost a little too soft at times, and almost sounds to my ear more like somebody playing an auto harp instead of like a guitar type of thing. Because once again, the whole reason why I flat pick is because I like the way that the plastic or cellular or whatever fake tortoise shells or sort of stuff sounds versus the metal finger pick. It just has a better warmth that I like, and it's why I've chosen to play with the flat pick. The sheets that I gave out to everybody, the whole reason I wanted to give it in is so you walk away with something that you can look back at and still work on, because whenever you try to rush through stuff like this, sometimes you can't get into it in very good depth, and it's like with me, it's in one ear and right out the other. So to give you a sheet there to be able to reference anything. I didn't get to go through the whole thing, but if there's any questions, please stop by my booth. I'd love to talk to you. It's been a real pleasure doing this for you, and I hope everybody has come up with some different concepts and try to think outside the box a little bit. I know this wasn't more of a teaching kind of note for note type of thing like I usually like to do, but it's more of a just talking about the different concepts. But I hope everybody thinks outside the box a little bit more. But thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.